Hello, friends. It's Chapo. This comes courtesy of a blog from Sam Bankman-Fried's blog from back in the day that reveals some of his thoughts on Shakespeare. So I'm just going to read this here just to close out today's episode. This is Sam Bankman-Fried's thoughts on, this is his review of William Shakespeare. So he writes, similarly, Shakespeare's non-comedies fix few of the flaws found in Much Ado About Nothing. Romeo and Juliet are incredibly flimsy characters, and the plot is absurd. For those interested, the number of lines between when Romeo is first made aware of Juliet's existence and when he recites the first love sonnet about her is 32, and none of those involve any action on Juliet's part, let alone interaction between them. Sure, you could say that the play is attempting to highlight the immaturity of youth, but at that point, you're attempting to cite the one-dimensionalness of the main characters of a work as a strength. And Shakespeare isn't alone in being a shitty writer from hundreds of years ago. The most ambitious woman in Pride and Prejudice has a life goal of marrying a rich, handsome man who is also intelligent. The thought that a woman could have a career or even a hobby independent from her husband is outside the scope of the book. And don't get me started on the Canterbury Tales. So this is Sam Bankman-Fried.
Incredible.
The last line is
fucking incredible. Well, you know, I would love to read Revolutionary Road, but their marriage is so bad.
Well, I mean, yeah, like Pride and Prejudice, written in an era where, women did not consider careers outside.
Yeah,
of
why didn't she go to a
guy.
Java boot camp?
I also really like that he finds Romeo and Juliet unrealistic because they fall in love too quickly, and he's actually tallied the number of lines. That there's only 32 lines before Leonardo DiCaprio is spitting a sonnet to Kate Claire Danes.
Yeah, no, they didn't even fuck any of each other's friends in a disgusting penthouse orgy.
I mean, this seems to be like that they have sort of evolved past the need for a literature class or the humanities or humanity just period.
Yeah,
concept.
humanity period.
They've already
got little need for it. Yeah,
they've got it figured out.
that was
we just have to let them have all the money so that they can set it up for us, and it'll all be cool. We'll have the Dyson Sphere, we'll have the Elysium Ring that some of us get to live in. And if you don't, well, that's because you didn't fuck with the vision, and that's your own fault.
Yeah, well, it's DYOR. You got to do your own research. It's really not their fault.
Yeah.
Well, I have an announcement to make, Will. I'd like to make it, and Matt and Felix, I'd like to make it on your pod. I have good news for the crypto bros. They will not have to read Easy Money. There is an audio book. I'm reading my own book. I will be reading about my interview with Sam, and Sam can listen to it. So while he's playing League of Legends and Sudoku at the same time, and listening to what was the rock that he was going to listen to? He was going to listen to
Clowncore,
Electro swing, clown
swing clowns.
So I have good news for him, and it only takes one Audible credit. I think it's going to be inexpensive for him. So
I mean, I think in another interview, Sam Bankman-Fried said, like, why would I read a book when I could just listen to a long-form podcast? And, you know, I got to say, I have to agree with him.
Yes.
You shouldn't read books. You should only listen to podcasts. But I got to credit a friend of the show, Brandy Jensen, who said, when these guys are talking about reading books, they're not talking about fiction. They're talking about a book called like Mind Embiggening, Brain Force Matrix or something. So I don't really think it's actually like that bad of a thing that they're not reading books or just listening to podcasts.
Right. The only books these guys read are the Tim Ferriss books that are like, you know, the 3-Hour Parent and like a guy who was on Joe Rogan, who's a Navy SEAL, who's like, I invented a new way to drink water. I've invented a new way to hold my breath. I can hold my breath for 3 hours.
But I mean, like, Ben, you talked about a number of red flags that should have been screaming at anyone with even a casual glance over at this corner of the world.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, the fact that they're headquartered in the Bahamas being one of them.
Yep.
But the fact that he is pedantically critiquing the plot holes in Romeo and Juliet as evidence for why William Shakespeare is a shitty writer. He's like, hey, you know, Juliet, that apothecary, the poison that she got, it's highly unlikely that there's any kind of poison that would make you look dead and then bring you back to life just in time. Just total. That was a bungle on William Shakespeare's part, inventing a poison that doesn't exist.
Well, that it really says it all, though. I mean, like, crypto is sort of like for what these guys claim it can be, it's vaporware. It's bullshit. That thing of the blockchain being able to record all human transaction and being able to do it instantly, that will not be the case, at least not for many, many years. But given the broad charter of something like an FTX or a Coinbase, someone like Bill Gross, someone from like the real finance industry, if they were given such a broad charter as any of these guys, we've said it a million times, they would have quietly made $5 billion. If they are allowed to be the exchange, the brokerage, the mint, the securities broker, the everything. Yeah, I don't think that even for how bullshit these things are, there are enough use cases in like drug money and money laundering, and it's allowed to be real enough that someone like that could make real actual money doing this. The way that it falls apart is that the people running this are people who think that they have disproven the need for books or think that they have outsmarted Shakespeare. There are people who like look at the reality of what this thing is, where it's like, okay, they're allowing this thing to be real enough because there's enough speculation money to be made and I can quietly make all this money. They look at that and they go, not enough. I'm smarter than anyone who has ever lived before me. I'm going to make $50 trillion because I'm going to put like when a child is born after this year, their life begins on the blockchain. I am going to record all human existence. I'm going to colonize the rings of Saturn. I'm going to invent a new type of Adderall that I'm doing right now.
Yep. A lot of people have said that like the guys in crypto are the guys that failed out of TradFi. Like they were just like,
yeah,
you know, they're like Sam didn't fail out, but he was at Jane Street, but he was straight out of college. Like he was not some king of the world, right? He saw an arbitrage opportunity. It was called the Kimchi Premium. This is like 2017, I want to say. So the crypto market's even more dysfunctional than it is now. And like, yeah, he saw an arbitrage opportunity. And so he took it and he made some money. And then he saw another one. And you know, he's just gambling. And Silicon Valley gives him $1.5 billion. And like, he's king of the world for like 5 seconds. And then, yeah, he didn't read the book. He didn't read the book on, I don't know, GAAP accounting or whatever. I don't know. He didn't read the book on just not stealing.
Ben,
not stealing book.
If only there was a I don't know, artistic tradition in the Western canon of authors who tried to communicate essentially man's doomed hubris and their tragic destiny to be fated, only to.
If only.
Yeah, I mean, I always think the Soros kind of made a comeback. You know what I mean? He was a big.
Well, yeah. Now Kanye's talking about him again.
Yeah. Well, by that I mean he was a big figure in like '90s like Beau Grit style conservatism, and since Trump, he's made a huge comeback. I've always enjoyed that Soros has been this like lasting cultural figure because he's such an interesting guy to me. He's not exactly evil for the reasons those guys say he is, but he is like a pretty bad guy. He's a pretty bad guy in the way that he made his money. He made his money through, you know, the downward pressure of foreign currency exchange.
Right.
I think the obsession with him is so funny though, by specifically like right wingers who lost their shirts on FTX, because it's almost like grasping out, like they're grasping out in anger towards like coherent financial management, towards like any type of like coherent financial strategy.
It's really hard not to see that as like the same thing as like JP Morgan being an anti-Semite. Like it's the same. It's not.
Well, the problem is not capitalism. The problem is a very discrete sector of capitalism controlled by very specific people.
It's like the guy that I talked to in the Miami Bitcoin conference who like makes these paintings that I guess have become important in the Bitcoin quote unquote community. And it was like a bunch of dudes around a table who were awfully Jewish, who represented the bankers of the world and like a big Bitcoin symbol behind them, as Bitcoin was going to be the response to like, you know, whoever, Soros.